All right, hi everybody, David Fogel back with you, CEO of the Symphonina Foundation, and back with another Symphonina Foundation podcast. I'm joined today by composer Vonn Vanier. Vonn, you're a performer too. I've seen you at a piano in a photo. So let's. I mean, are you a composer first and a performer second, or what's the order of things for you?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. Um, I'm foremost a composer, definitely, and spend most of my time musically working on that. Piano's my main instrument, and I've also been a vocalist in the past, but have primarily used piano as a means of generating compositional ideas and various things.
Wonderful. And Vonn, how old are you?
I'm 18 years
See, now
old.
no one would know that really. I mean, you carry yourself off very professionally and very mature. And I will say too, I've had the joy just recently. I've interviewed a 16-year-old cellist very recently. We'll get the podcast up on that soon. And at the end of last year, I had the privilege of interviewing composer and performer Fiona Gerke, who's 17 years old. So it's just a delight for me, especially, part of the mission of the Symphonina Foundation, spreading the joy of symphonic music to young audiences. Generally, I mean younger than me and not like as young as you, but it is great when it is as young as you, and it's also great when somebody your age is composing symphonic works and getting them performed by a live orchestra. And you've done that. You have an album called Dawn, which I believe you released last year, performed by the Skywalker Symphony Orchestra. So tell me a little bit about your genesis of the idea for composing the album, and also importantly, how you went about getting an orchestra to perform your music.
Well, I'd say it all started probably a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago at this point, when I was just sort of getting into composition, and I was very fortunate to rather early on be accepted to the Boston University Tanglewood Institute for some of their summer composition programs there. And I went and really enjoyed it and got to study with a few different people out of Boston University. And so I think that really sparked my interest, having been a musician, to become also a composer and to take what I'd learned in terms of theory and improvisation in the past and to apply that specifically to composition. So for the next few years, I continued to grow my skills in orchestral writing and chamber writing, and wrote some pieces at the Tanglewood Institute during the summers, and also just throughout the other seasons as well over the next several years. Regarding how I got the orchestra to eventually play a bunch of those works, it was very much a sort of fairy tale of story of serendipity. It
We'll
was
take that. That's good. Tell us about it. Yeah.
I I had originally been in the Grace Cathedral choir of men and boys in San Francisco from third to eighth grade. And during Christmas concerts and other events, we'd play with an orchestral ensemble. The concert master of the orchestra was named Jeremy Cohen, and he was a producer and very well connected in the Bay Area, and 9-time Grammy nominee, just a very, very talented person. And so over the years, I got to know him, and he introduced me to a lot of different musicians throughout the Bay Area. And it was really through him that I was able to get my work performed by the Skywalker Symphony Orchestra and conducted by Daria Novo, and have a lot of other very talented people on the project.
That's great. You keep in touch then too, still?
Absolutely. Yeah. We hope to see what can continue throughout our relationship. And he's a wonderful person, and yeah, very, very accomplished in terms of what all he's done musically as well.
Sounds great. When you went to the Boston University Tanglewood Institute, how long was that program?
So for the first 2 summers, I did a shorter program, but in the last summer, it's 6 weeks, and it's an intensive program where they're really trying to train you to write quickly and develop a sort of personal voice, and just get more experience writing for a variety of different ensembles. So it's like a piece a week. We're very fortunate to have lots of master classes by renowned composers throughout the U.S. and to be able to be closely connected to the Boston Symphony Orchestra, which performed there as
So
well.
in that regard, then taking whatever it was that you learned at the program plus your own experience, when you approach doing something that's a solo piano work versus doing a chamber work versus doing a full symphonic orchestra work, what is, if you can speak about it or elucidate it, I guess, in words, what's the difference in your approach to how you think about the composition?
Absolutely. So In general, as a composer, I think writing for orchestra especially is just an incredible experience. There's so much possibility and creative freedom to really build whatever sound you want. So I think in any of the cases, whether it's piano or full orchestra, you're really trying to achieve the full expressive potential. But for me, when it comes to orchestration, I'm really just thinking about the fundamental material, whether it's melodic melody or a short motif, and thinking how I can orchestrate that in a way that makes sense and really tells the story. So, of course, for orchestra, it could be if it's something loud, could be brass, and there's a lot of potential for different ideas there. Whereas for something smaller like string quartet, there's a certain intimacy that can be really utilized in a very expressive way. So whether it's just finding ways to have the voices do different things, but all sort of come together at once in a way that would be a little bit more unusual for orchestras is fun.
And when you have a piece in mind, do you have a vision at the beginning as to which direction you're going to go? Is it this is going to be a solo piano piece, or is it sometimes the case that you started off maybe as a solo piano and then think actually there's more here I can do by making it a chamber piece or an orchestral piece?
So it depends for me. I've done a lot of different approaches when it comes to writing, and in general, I think either the ways I start writing a piece are I improv on the piano and come up with something that sounds interesting and intriguing and that I want to expand into something bigger, or I have some sort of technical idea in mind or a more abstract or kind of visual image like a glistening lake. And so from there, once I have that fundamental idea, it just becomes what ensemble makes sense and what will be the most expressively interesting for that particular idea. So to take the example of a glistening lake, I wrote a piece called Shimmer for piano quintet, and that I used the whole tone scale and chordal harmony and a bunch of other technical elements which are known to be very dreamy. And so I figured that having strings and something that could do very sustained, thin, colorful sounding notes and chords
Yeah,
seemed to make sense.
yeah. And Shimmer's on your Dawn album along with several other tracks. Did I note correctly that Dawn is not a track? It's just the name of your album.
Correct.
Okay, so I have to ask now, what was your impetus for calling it Dawn? And then let's go through a couple of the tracks like Lost at Home and Jagged and Bloom, for example,
Mhm.
for thinking of what your inspiration were to create those pieces.
Absolutely. So, as maybe one could guess from the name, and as an 18-year-old composer now, it seemed to make sense that dawn being sunrise being the start of something new seemed to be very fitting, and especially living in Jackson, Wyoming, which is full of natural scenery and a lot of sort of beautiful
Definitely
sunrises and
beautiful. I've
sunsets.
been there. Yes, definitely beautiful.
Yeah,
Just outside Yellowstone. So, yep.
exactly. It's a very special place, and so considering those two things, it seems like a wonderful option for an album name. And so, as I mentioned earlier, Dawn is a sort of survey of my orchestral, chamber, and solo work. You have pieces that are more large scale and orchestral, like Rhapsody in C minor and Lost at Home, which is a reflection on World War One and the violence and power, emotional power of that moment in history.
Hmm.
And then things that are more sort of impressionist in a way or very just kind of intimate or soulful. So you have pieces like Bloom, which is for wind quintet, which is reflecting on the beauty of spring and what that brings. And then very technical pieces that are derived from ideas that are based in music theory and more experimental ideas for solo piano, like my piece OPCI, which stands for Ordered Pitch Class Intervals. So it's really a wide variety of different things, but I think it forms a sort of cohesive whole.
Yeah. What do you think for you is the relative importance of melody in a piece? Do you think that's important? Melodic composition versus, let's say, avant-garde composition. And what was it like at the Tanglewood Institute in terms of what they were teaching?
Hmm. I think nowadays there's definitely more of an emphasis in general on experimental composition. And I think there's a lot of freedom at the same time for composers to develop their own style. Typically, it's, in my opinion, and in that of many composers, it's good not to do something that exactly sounds like Mozart, but something that can be accessible to modern audiences, but do something a little different. So it doesn't have to be the specific chord structures and harmonies that Mozart did, but it doesn't have to be something incredibly on the other side of the spectrum that's totally atonal. So what I like to do, and is a goal for me as a composer, is to combine classical styles like what Mozart or Brahms would have done with sort of a film music style with also something more contemporary in sound. So what it creates is a sort of fresh result, or at least that's the hope, in terms of having things that are both accessible but also interesting and sort of unique for the listener to hear. So that ends up being a little bit of melody, a little bit of harmony that's unexpected or unusual and comes together in an interesting way.
Yeah, sounds great. Are you going to college now? Where are you in your educational path?
I'm here at Stanford, so also in California. It's nice and sunny always here, which is certainly
The
a
rest of the
plus.
country is suffering right now. But you and I are
Yeah.
having a very nice day. I have to say, down here in San Diego, we're in the mid 70s today on the coast,
Yeah.
and
I, d- I
I do empathize with those who are not in the 70s. But hopefully, you're coming out for the Grammys that'll be coming this weekend, and hopefully, we'll give you some good weather. But anyway, you're at Stanford. What are you studying at Stanford?
So I'm double majoring in music and composition in particular, and also math. So
Okay.
it's a nice mix, especially in a university setting, to have, academic areas like math, but also to be able to study music rigorously and continue to expand that as much as I can.
Yeah, and do you favor one over the other as your future career, or do you gonna just see where things go, or what's your plan?
It's hard to say right now exactly. I think both options leave the door open for me, and they're certainly very intertwined and can be combined in interesting ways in the future. So we'll see. I'm only in my freshman year and still have a lot of time, but I
It's
do know
true.
that I want to take the music as far as I can and develop it into the most it can be.
That sounds good. Well, I think you do know my bachelor's degree was also in math with an emphasis in statistics, and ended up going that direction for quite some ways. And yes, all the music doors are still open to you. So it just depends on how hard you want to work and which directions you want to go. And I think you've already demonstrated a really incredible motivational level. So I'm sure there'll be
Thank
nothing
you.
that's holding you back. What do you have planned for us for 2026?
Well, one of the big plans right now is I'm working with a San Diego youth orchestra called the East County Youth Symphony, and they're holding a couple of performances in 2026 to celebrate America's 250th anniversary.
Hmm.
And so they've brought in a lot of different composers, young composers from around California, to write different pieces for the orchestra, which is also an orchestra of college students and some high school students as well. And so I'm going to be writing, it's still in the making, but a sort of 15 to 20-minute orchestral piece that's somehow a survey of the United States and celebrates that in a certain way.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And hopefully it'll be performed sometime around July 4th, if not on July 4th. Everybody
Mhm.
might be out watching the fireworks instead of being at a musical concert on the 4th, but you never know. But
Mhm.
that sounds great. You also, Vaughn, you have a podcast called Beyond the Notes. It's been my pleasure to be your guest on that podcast, and I'm looking forward to whenever that session is released. How did you get an idea to do a podcast?
Well, I figured as I continue to grow my network as a composer and meet new people, that it would be a wonderful way to meet some very inspiring people in the world of music, people that I look up to and can learn really a lot from. So the idea of the podcast is to talk to and have deep, genuine conversations with various people of the music world that are really notable and skilled and have a unique perspective. So we've had in the past five-time Grammy-winning composers, recording engineers, Grammy-recognized performers, basically all aspects of the music industry, producers as well, who really have had experiences that speak a lot to the music industry and really are notable and impressive. So it's been a blast to meet them and to be able to get to hear their stories, and we're continuing to do it and hope to meet a wide variety of very interesting people in the future.
How many podcasts a month do you do?
Well, I launched the podcast at this point a few months ago, and it's been accelerating. So I'd say nowadays about maybe three guests a month, and we come out every couple weeks.
Yeah, well, you have to balance your calculus and the compositional requirements at Stanford University and anything else that you're doing in balancing your life, including writing new music to be performed by the East County Youth Symphony around July, which is going to be here before you know it. So you're a busy guy. You're a busy Vonn. What recommendations do you have to other young people, maybe your own age, maybe a little younger, who are thinking about getting into music and maybe, like you, don't want to commit fully one side or the other side of life, whatever that other side might entail for them? Doesn't have to be math or science. It could be, economics or politics or anything, but just don't want to commit completely to music. But what kind of advice do you give them?
Well, I'd say, first of all, if music is a passion, and you should absolutely just pursue it as much as you can. And whether that means composing or performing or conducting or whatever else, if you love it, just work at it each day, and you'll improve slowly. And it'll build up over time. So I think that's really important. Secondly, finding good mentors musically who, first of all, you love and are inspiring to you, but also who challenge you in ways and find ways to get you to think and really feel the music, whatever that means in the specific context. And then finally, I'd just say, meet as many people as you can. That's invaluable in the music world. And when it comes to balancing interests, I think music and so many other things really balance in incredible ways. And music really is, as I mentioned before, intertwined with math, but a lot of other subjects too. So whatever interests you, music, whether you decide to pursue music fully or not, I would encourage absolutely to continue to take it as far as you can.
Vonn, you're very inspirational, I have to say. It's great. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, I have a website. It's just my name, vonnvanier.com. Also, any of the social media platforms, and you can hear my music also on YouTube or any music streaming services that you listen to. But the best way is to contact me personally is just through my website or through social medias.
It sounds great. And speaking of sounding great, we're going to listen to some more of your great music on the way out here. And at the Symphony Foundation, we wish you all the best. If there's anything we can do to be of help to you, Vonn, along the way, you just let us know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again.